Oh, what's going on YouTube? ModzvilleUSA here, back with another video, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I've been sitting on this project for a minute waiting for parts to come in from all over the globe, from America, from China, from all of that. This video, we're going to be upgrading a Dell Optiplex 760 and turning it into a pretty damn competent, hopefully, gaming PC. So we're going to be doing quite a bit. We're going to be taking it apart. We're going to be modding the case to use a regular 750 Ti graphics card as opposed to the small form factors, which are very expensive. And yeah, so a little backstory here. My little brother is a teenager now. He's very into games. He's got the PS4, and you know, he plays it in the living room. It bums my parents out. He doesn't get to properly game. They won't let him get PS Plus for some reason. I don't know. But PC gaming's where it's at. I'm hooking him up with a computer, Steam account. Got him a bunch of games on the summer sale. Hopefully this thing will run Rust, because I could use somebody to have my back. Always need more people in Rust. We're going to be putting some stuff in it. Let's switch cams here. Here it is. Here's the computer. I'm going to show you what I got. And everything's going to be linked in the description. You want to do something like this. Now this was free. This was sitting in the living room at my parents' house. They didn't even know it existed, so that's a thing. We're going to be making this thing pretty competent. I have had a similar build that worked very well for the price. It just wasn't a small form factor. So what we got here, we got 8 gigs of RAM. Roughly, it was about 25 bucks on eBay for 2 gig sticks. This thing holds 4 sticks of RAM. 8 is the max, so we are going to max it out. And you can get one of these GTX 750 Ti's on eBay for roughly about 50 bucks. Probably more like 70 if you go the buy it now option. But if you bid on one, you could get one of these for about 50 plus shipping, or about 60 buy it now, whatever. So there is that. So you're only going to, the power supply in these are not very beefy. They're like under 300 watts. So you're going to want to do 750 or 1050 Ti, something 50 Ti, because those do not take up very much power. Now in order to get this hooked up, we are also going to need one of these. This is a PCI Express extender. Much thanks, shout out to Linus Tech Tips, who did a build, similar build and something like this. Every other build video I had seen, people were getting the small form factor 750 Ti's, which go for like literally like 200 to 300 bucks. It's actually insane how much money these small form factor versions of these cost, which we're not going to deal with. We are going to mod the case. EditingvilleUSA here, and I had initially bought a Xeon CPU. It took about 30 days to get it from China, and after a day of pulling my hair out, messing with custom BIOSes and all of that, I still could not get it to work. So I opted to get one of these Core 2 Quad Q9650, 12 megabytes cache, clocked at 3 gigahertz. A little bit weaker than the Xeon and a little bit more expensive at 32 bucks instead of 20, but it ended up working out quite well. So any mention of the Xeon CPU going forward, just disregard, because that is not what I installed. Anyway, back to the build. And here we go. We've got a 500 gig SSD. This is completely optional, but it's super nice to have in your computer. I highly recommend getting an SSD. If you don't, it will make everything a hell of a lot smoother to run. Editingville here again, guys, and at this point in the video I babble on about getting a Dremel to mod the case, but I ended up just using these flush cutters to cut up the metal, because it's got the nice little ventilation is actually pretty easy to just snap off there and insert our graphics card. So just go ahead and get these if you don't have a Dremel. This worked out quite well for me. So now on to the disassembly of the computer. Okay, so I popped the top off of this right here. Now as you can see, we've got a 3.5 hard drive in here, solid state. We're going to be completely taking that out, as that is taking up a whole lot of space, and this is where our graphics card is going to sit. The extender goes in the PCI Express slot right here, and that will go into our graphics card. Our graphics card is going to sit there, and we are going to cut this metal shielding out here. This is the plan, at least. I'm going in completely blind. We're going to take this metal plate off. I'm going to measure it, and then this is going to slide through. Metal plate goes back on, and that should secure it in place. I hope that makes sense to you, as it kind of makes sense to me. It might be a little tricky. So we got these here that we might need to hack up the case a bit more, where these screws are, as we don't want. Well, let's see. Actually, yeah, maybe it can go under that. I don't really know how this is gonna end up, but we shall find out. Alright guys, so I managed to finish up the case mod here, so let me show you what I got. It's a bit covered. Let's see, can you see that? So I managed to cut it out, and I didn't end up using the Dremel at all. I just used the flush cuts, snip, snip, snip. Had to bend a piece of metal off. Just really hacked it up for the most part, and then I sanded it down and put some electrical tape on there just to make it a little bit safe, make sure nothing's getting shorted out. Graphics card, I had to hack up a little bit, otherwise it would have been stopped by the case, which is fine. Now as you can see, fits in nicely like that. I also had to remove this bit of plastic here because it was interfering, and it's being locked in by that a little bit right now, and then once it's in, it will be screwed in, secured like that, and I'm going to need to figure out some sort of standoff situation, so it's not just all being held up by this, because that would put a lot of stress on the ports, I do believe. We shall see though once it's in. I don't think that is as secure as it should be. Totally. So now it's just a matter of putting it back together, upgrading the CPU, the RAM, putting in the new hard drive, getting it all set up. So yeah, let's jump into that. What's going on, guys? So the last clip you would have seen would have been shot about a week ago. Long story short, I couldn't get the Xeon CPU to work at all, so I ordered a quad-core Core Duo CPU. I think it's Q9650, I believe. I'll go ahead and confirm that, but yeah, this is the final build. I got the CPU installed in here. Still have the drive hooked up, and we've got the GPU right here. As you can see, it's pretty secure. Now that we've got the extender cable below, as you can see, I've cut out a bit of plastic, so this faceplate can sit there. The hard drive just kind of floats here once I put it in. So you can see it's pretty secure. You can't push it, the top goes on, and that will be fine right there. Now we are going to monitor temps. So far I haven't had an issue, but we will see once we get into some of the benchmarks how the temps are looking. And let me just show you, so you can see that is in there, secure. And yeah, this turned out quite a bit better than I even expected. And in case you were wondering, yes indeed, the top goes back on just fine. See if I can do it one-handed. No, not really. Let me put it on and cut to it being on. And there she is, gang. Top is on, nice and secure. And yeah, fan spins up, nothing's getting interfered with or anything. So yeah, this turned out quite well. Very happy with it. So let me get some games installed and we'll go ahead and see how they perform. Alright guys, so we're starting off the games with Doom 2016. Now as you can see, I've got everything set to medium. Went ahead and tweaked a few things, turned lens dirt off, that's all preference. And yeah, check it out, dudes. We're getting from the 40 to 50 FPS. On the lows, it's in like the mid 30s, and it's very, very playable. It looks great. It's kind of surprising how smooth it is in the 40 FPS range. It's not, did not feel that much different than 60 FPS to me. Very playable, very enjoyable experience at 40 FPS. Looking like this. Now if we really wanted to squeeze 60 FPS out of this, just dial it down to low. But I felt like this was a very nice stopping point. 40 FPS felt fine, looks great, and yeah, that's what I went with. Very nice. Next up we got Rocket League. As you can see, I'm running this at max settings here. Had to bump up the max FPS as much as I could to the 250 range. Oh no, unlimited, whatever. So yeah, as you can see, we're hovering in the well above 60 FPS range, 80s, 70s. Doesn't dip below about 70 really, which is perfect. This is going to be running on a 60 hertz monitor, so anything over 60 doesn't really matter. Yeah, this runs perfect, looks beautiful, and yeah, what can I say? Rocket League, not as demanding as Doom 2016, but nonetheless, it is running great. Alright, next up is CSGO. Running this at max settings, everything's high or ultra, and it does dip below. It's somewhere in between the 30 on the low side and up with high ultra, the default settings, mostly hovering around 50 FPS. For competitive viability, I guess lowering the settings would be ideal, but this felt fine just playing it, and it looks very nice, so I just kept everything high. Definitely playable, and yeah, for more competitive viability, I would just bump those settings down to medium, get above 60 FPS, but for casual play, this works out nicely. Next up, we got GTA 5 running at medium settings, and I bumped up the population density and variation and all that a little bit, and yeah, it's running very, very well. Somewhere in the 45 FPS average, dips to like mid 30s sometimes, but yeah, no, it's definitely a much better experience when you got something hovering in the like 45 range and it'll dip to the 30s on the low side. You definitely feel a much bigger improvement than like 30 FPS locked. It feels very nice, very smooth, and yeah, sticking with medium feels like the right balance. Yes, I could get more FPS if I bumped down the settings to low, but I think it looks good and it feels smooth enough for me as far as playability. And this is with it stressing out too, killing a bunch of cops and going on a bit of a rampage here. Here we are with Minecraft, fancy graphics and about 12 chunks, I believe is what I set it to. And as you can see, our frame rate's jumping up into the hundreds. Could probably get a few more chunks and still have it be well above 60, but 12 felt fine. Not flying around or anything. Yeah, I don't know how many chunks, what the render distance is on console, but I believe 12 is probably way higher than that. And yeah, what can you say? It's Minecraft. Java, the best of the Minecrafts and the least optimized, running beautifully on this build. If we had 144 refresh rate monitor, this would be perfect for that, as it's getting well above that most of the time, except for those little dips here and there. Next up, it is Fortnite. Not my cup of tea, but you know, little brother is probably into it. I think he's into it. Says he's into it, so we might as well test it out. So we're running everything medium, with the resolution being 720 by 1280, 3D resolution. I suppose that's different from the display resolution, which is at 1080. And yeah, it looks quite good. We're getting over 60 FPS, more than playable. And I spent a majority of this game just messing with my teammate, trying to hit him with my pickaxe or whatever. I don't know. I don't get the game, but yeah, it's running quite well. Alright, next up we've got Rust, and we're running this 720 by 1280, and potato graphics. Everything's dialed down, and we're hovering in the not so good FPS. I did choose a pretty blown out server. Luckily they brought back the small servers, which were gone for years, and I just realized they've made them again, the official face punch small servers. Pretty good for testing, because there's going to be a lot of people running around, a whole lot of entities, bases built in a small amount of space, so this stressed it out pretty good. This might be maybe a little bit more mellow to run than like Rustified or one of those, but yeah, no, this is a pretty intense server to try running on. But yeah, it's definitely playable. It's definitely not ideal though. As you can see, my CPU seems to be the bottleneck. It is pretty much maxed out with my GPU hovering around the 40% range. Now, oddly enough, I bumped my graphics up a little bit, and it ran smoother, like around 40 FPS is what I was getting after bumping it up. So for whatever reason, I think because I saw that I had a lot of room there with the GPU to push it a little bit further, and yeah, that seemed to help it by bumping up the graphics. I got better FPS for some reason. Don't really understand it. Rust is a weird beast. You're not going to get it to run perfectly no matter what rig you have. Like, I get dips and stutters here and there. It's very poorly optimized, but yeah, for whatever reason, load times were longer on this computer, even with the SSD. They were significantly longer than it takes for me. I'm guessing it's the CPU or the RAM. Something's holding it back. It's definitely using majority of the RAM. You can see it's floating in the 7,000, almost all 8 gigs being used. CPU stressed out. GPU not so much. So yeah, this game is getting real bottlenecked by the CPU and RAM likely. But yeah, it's playable. It's definitely not ideal, but playable. Alright, last but not least, I wanted to do a newer game. So this is RE2, came out earlier this year, late last year, I forget. And yeah, this is what it defaulted at. So mix between low, medium, and high. And we're just going to try that. We're not going to mess with anything at all. We'll see how it runs. in the default settings. It looks great too. Jeez.
You all right? Don't move. I'll be back for you.
Stop moving.
Officer, you need help?
Stay back, sir. I got this.
Oh, that's not good.
Freeze! I'll shoot!
Million headshots to kill anything in this game. Still alive? Yep. These things never die.
Son of a bitch.
So here's the end of the video, guys. Appreciate it if you stuck it through to the end. Now, in conclusion, I think it was a success. Oh, hey, you're in the video. There we go. So yeah, anyway, this was a success, I would have to say. I'm stoked on the way it turned out, and I think my little brother will be excited as well. However, if you do not have a free Dell Optiplex at home to upgrade, but you want to make a small form factor like this, you can get something better for pretty much the same price that I spent upgrading this thing. Now, check it out. I'm over here on eBay. Let's switch over here. Did a little search for Optiplex i5 8 gigabytes. Now we got this guy here, 119, but we can get them for roughly 100. Look at this guy right here, 90 bucks, free shipping. It's a 790 i5 2400, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it comes with a 320 gigabyte hard drive. Now we would be upgrading that to an SSD. You don't necessarily have to, but you're gonna want to at least get a like a laptop 2.5 hard drive to fit everything in there, and then hack up the back, add a 750 Ti or a 1050 Ti, and you're set. Look at this guy right here. It comes with 500 gigabytes. This isn't a small form factor though. This guy, this $89 one seems pretty good. So yeah, what, 50 bucks for the SSD, another 50 for the graphics card. Looking at about $200 build. Get a nice little small form factor media center for your TV. Crush the performance of a PS4 Pro, and yeah, you're set. You are set. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. This one took quite a bit of time and money to pull off, but I am happy with this computer. And go forth, bring some computers back to life, and give it to a teenager. Let them game on. Farewell. Modzville signing out.